Hey guys, tonight we begin with the cruel, unforgiving, and truly terrifying world of real pirates. Those romantic figures who swing from ship to ship with shiny swords in the moonlight, the way Hollywood shows them, as cool rebels living lives full of adventure and freedom. The truth is, being a pirate was one of the most brutal, humiliating, and short lives a person could ever have. Your body would be destroyed by sickness. Your mind would be broken by violence, and everyone would hunt you like a dangerous wild animal until your painful and horrible death. So before you get comfortable, please take a second to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you are watching from and what time it is there. It is always amazing to see who is watching from all over the world. Now turn down the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that quiet humming sound in the background, and let us slowly start tonight's story together. You did not choose to become a pirate. Pirates were not born from dreams of adventure or happy ideas of freedom on the open ocean. They were made by hopelessness, violence, and having no other way to stay alive. Most pirates started as pressed men, sailors who were kidnapped from bars, grabbed off the streets, or taken from other ships and forced to work on ships they never wanted to be on. The press gangs that walked through the ports of the Caribbean and the Atlantic coast were mean and very good at their job. They would move through the waterfront areas like big nets, catching anyone who looked strong enough to pull ropes or climb the ship's ropes. Age did not matter much. Boys as young as 12 and men as old as 50 could be dragged onto a ship, and their old life was cut away as fast as a sword slash. You might have been a farmer in town to sell your crops, a carpenter looking for a job, or just a drunk man walking home from a bar. None of that mattered once the press gang saw you. The change from a forced sailor to a pirate was not a big moment with parties or promises. It was a slow loss of your humanity that started the minute they pushed you below deck on your first ship. The conditions on normal trading ships and navy ships were so terrible that becoming a pirate often felt like a step up instead of a fall into crime. At least pirates shared the stolen goods fairly, while regular sailors were cheated, beaten, and worked to death for money they might never get. Your first days at sea were full of pain and suffering. The place where you slept was a dark, smelly hole filled with dirty bodies, rotting food, and human waste. The air was so bad that every breath was hard work. Men would throw up from being seasick, from stomach sickness, and from the awful smell, adding to the dirty liquid that moved around your feet every time the ship rocked. There was no privacy. You ate, slept, and used the toilet right in front of many other men, all of whom were becoming just as scared and dangerous as you. The work was very hard and never stopped. 18-hour days were normal. You pulled heavy ropes, climbed high dangerous ropes, and did repair jobs that could kill you with one small mistake. Your hands would get blisters and bleed in a few days, then turn into hard skin forever. Your back would hurt all the time from bending and lifting. Your feet would get cuts and bruises from the rough wooden floor. Sleep, when you got any, was short and restless, just enough to keep you alive for the next day of pain. The food was almost impossible to eat and often full of bugs. Hard bread called hardtack had so many bugs that sailors would hit it on the table to knock the bugs out before biting it. The meat was salted so much it was almost too tough to chew, and the water was green from tiny plants and tasted like old wood from the barrels it sat in for months. A sickness called scurvy always came. Your gums would bleed, your teeth would get loose, and your body would start to eat itself from the inside. The officers treated you like animals, worth keeping alive but easy to beat for any small mistake. A whip called the cat o' nine tails was always ready. Its knotted ropes could rip the skin off a man's back in a few hits. You would watch other sailors get whipped until they passed out from pain, then woken up again with salt water poured on the open wounds. The screams would echo inside the ship for hours, reminding everyone what happened if you did not obey. Sickness was always with you. Diseases like typhus, yellow fever, and dysentery spread fast on ships and killed men quicker than fights ever did. You would wake up and find the man sleeping next to you dead and cold, his body already starting to swell in the hot weather. Dead men were wrapped in old cloth, sewn shut, and thrown into the sea with almost no words. There was no time to be sad when staying alive took all your attention. The violence was not only from the officers. Scared men in terrible places turned on each other all the time. Fights started over tiny bits of food, someone saying another person stole, or just from the crazy stress of being stuck together in awful conditions. You learned to sleep lightly, with one eye open and your knife close, because the man who was friendly in the daytime might try to kill you at night for the few things you owned. Your first meeting with real pirates might happen when they attacked your own ship. A black flag would appear far away, and fear would grab the whole crew like a hand squeezing tight. But when the pirates climbed on board with swords shining and guns firing, you might notice something surprising. They moved with clear purpose and control, not wild, crazy killing like you were told. They were professionals, and they gave you something your old bosses never did, a choice. The pirate captain would speak to the captured crew in a calm and polite way. He would explain that any man who wanted to join them would be welcomed as an equal brother. Anyone who wanted to stay with their old ship could go free, though they might lose their weapons and supplies. It was very different from the press gangs that had forced you onto the ship in the first place. Here was a chance to choose, fair decisions together, and a promise of equal shares of anything they stole. The choice to go on the account, the name for joining pirates, was not easy. You knew you were crossing a line you could never cross back. Once you promised and signed the pirate rules, you became an enemy of every normal country. There was no going home, no old life, no mercy if someone caught you. But when you looked at your life right then, the mean officers, the tiny bits of food, the constant sickness and danger, piracy started to look less like punishment and more like freedom. Your change from a forced sailor to a pirate did not have a big party or special moment. You just walked from one ship to the other and left your old self behind. The clothes on your back, the hard skin on your hands, and the scars on your body came with you. But your name, your past, and any ties to the normal world stayed behind, floating away with your old ship. The pirate crew greeted you with rough friendship, but also careful watching. You were still new and unknown. They worried you might be a spy or too scared to fight. You had to prove yourself by what you did, show you were brave and loyal in fights and hard times. The pirate brotherhood was not given for free. You earned it with blood, hard work, and pain you shared with them. Your new crewmates were a group of hopeless, violent, and lost people. Some were sailors like you, some were escaped slaves looking for freedom, some were people running from debt, some were soldiers who left their armies, and some were every kind of criminal. What brought them together was not big ideas or good goals. It was needing each other and knowing they were all outcasts from the world they left. The ship was now your home, your jail, and your fort all at once. Unlike normal trading ships or navy ships, a pirate ship was built for attacking and stealing from others. Every change, every tool, every part of daily life was made to help hunt, catch, and rob other ships. You were not just a sailor anymore. You were a hunter, and the huge ocean was your hunting area. Your pirate training started right away. You learned to use a sword and pistol, to move quietly in the ropes high above, to see signs of a good ship to attack far away. But more than that, you learned to think like a pirate, to see every ship as something to steal from, every port as a place for supplies and news, every meeting as a chance to make money or a danger to kill. The biggest change was inside your mind. The rules you grew up with, respecting other people's things, obeying bosses, caring about innocent people, slowly disappeared because you had to survive. You learned to say violence was needed, stealing was fair, and killing was protecting yourself. Right and wrong got blurry until they were gone, and all that mattered was staying alive and making money. Your old self faded away like a dream you could barely remember. The person you were, with family, friends, hopes, and dreams, felt like a different person. A tougher, meaner person grew in his place, shaped by pirate life. You took a new name, new ways of acting, new loyalties. The change was so big that even you might not remember who you used to be before the black flag took you. Your new home was a wooden jail full of death, sickness, and human pain. The pirate ship that had looked like rescue compared to your old ship quickly showed it was another kind of hell, just with different bosses and a little better food. The pretty picture of pirates sailing free on blue water was a mean lie. You were stuck in a small, smelly, dangerous place with some of the meanest and most unstable men in the world. The ship was full of dangers made to kill careless people. Every floor was slippery from salt water, sticky tar, and body fluids. The wooden deck was worn smooth by many feet and could make you slip and fall against the rail or into the ocean with one wrong step. The ropes high above were like a giant spider web. Some were strong enough to hold a man, others were old and rotten and ready to break at the worst time. You learned to test every place you grabbed or stepped, because one mistake could send you falling to the hard deck or into water full of sharks. Below deck was where the worst horror was. The area with the cannons was a low cave that forced even normal-sized men to walk bent over. When the cannons were pushed out to shoot, there was almost no room to move between them. The smell was too bad to describe, a mix of gunpowder, rotting wood, dirty water, and the stink of men who had not washed in months. The air was so thick you could almost chew it, and every breath made you cough and look for clean air that never existed. Your bed was a hammock hung between two cannons if you were lucky. Most times you slept right on the floor, using a rope coil for a pillow and your coat for a blanket. There was no privacy. You slept pressed against men who might rob or kill you while you slept. The ship rocked all the time, so sleep was never good. You woke up sore from rolling into other men or hard parts of the ship. The food was a little better than on normal ships, but that was not saying much. The cook was usually a man who lost an arm or leg in a fight and could not do normal work anymore. He cooked in a small kitchen that was just a fire box with barrels around it. The main food was salted pork so tough you could hit someone with it, hard bread that had to be softened in rum to chew, and thin soup made from any vegetables that were not completely rotten. Water was always a problem. The barrels grew green plants, germs, and tiny sea animals. The water turned green fast, and after a long trip it was thick like jelly. Most pirates drank rum or beer instead, not just for fun, but because the alcohol killed some of the bad things that made water dangerous. Rats were everywhere and in many ways lived better than you. They could go anywhere, eat all the food, and hide when danger came. You would wake up with rats chewing your clothes, your food, or even your skin if you slept too deeply. Some pirates liked the rats. They were fresh meat when food ran out, and they could warn about storms or danger. Sickness killed more pirates than battles ever did. Scurvy made your gums rot and teeth fall out until eating hurt too much. Dysentery made you weak and always going to the toilet, losing everything you ate or drank. Typhus burned you with fever and gave you a rash that meant you would die. Yellow fever turned your skin yellow and made you throw up blood. The ship's doctor, if you had one, was usually a man who learned to cut people on battlefields, not in school. His main tools were a saw for legs and arms, rum to make the pain less, and a hot iron to burn wounds closed. He worked on the cannon deck by lantern light while other men held the hurt person down. The screams filled the whole ship. So many men died from the doctor's help that some chose to keep bad wounds and hope instead of letting him cut. The smell of the ship stayed with you forever. It was a mix of human waste, bad food, old water, gunpowder, tar, and death. The smell got into your clothes, hair, and skin until you could never get away from it, even in dreams. Other pirates could smell you coming, and normal people would turn away before you even opened your mouth. Washing was something most pirates could not do. Fresh water was too important to use for cleaning, and salt water hurt your skin and made cuts worse. Most men just stayed dirty. Some would stand naked in rainstorms so clean rainwater could wash off the worst dirt. Lice and fleas lived on everyone. You spent free time picking bugs out of your clothes and hair. The ship was always falling apart from salt water, storms, and battle damage. Wood boards came loose and let water in. Ropes broke and needed fixing all the time. Sails got holes that had to be sewn with any cloth you could find. Every pirate had to know how to fix wood, sew sails, and join ropes because the ship staying afloat depended on everyone. The lowest part of the ship, the bilge, was full of sea water, pee, throw up, and rotting things. The smell could make you pass out, and touching the water could make you sick, but someone had to go down there all the time to pump the water out so the ship did not sink. Usually the newest or least liked men got that job, and many got sick for months after. The constant rocking of the ship made new men crazy. The floor moved up and down and side to side without warning, sending people and things sliding. Eating, sleeping, and even standing were hard and needed constant balance. Seasickness happened even to experienced sailors. The mix of feeling sick, no water in your body, and the bad air could keep men lying down for days. Fire was the scariest thing on any wooden ship, especially one full of gunpowder and rum. One tiny spark could burn the whole ship in minutes. The cooking fire was watched carefully and kept inside sand and water barrels, but accidents still happened. Many pirates had burn scars from cooking, cannons, or fire from enemy ships. The smell of burned skin was part of the ship's stink. The cannons were huge and heavy. They could crush a man if they broke free in a storm. Gunpowder was kept in a special room that could blow up if someone was careless. Swords, pistols, and guns were kept sharp and ready, but could hurt the wrong person by mistake. Your own space was only what fit in a small chest or bag. You had to be able to grab it fast if the ship sank or was taken. Most pirates owned almost nothing, just extra clothes, one or two weapons, and maybe a small thing from their old life. Stealing was normal. Anything not watched disappeared fast. The leaders kept power with violence and the threat of violence. The captain's word was law, backed by men ready to kill anyone who argued. The quartermaster gave out food, water, and stolen things, so he was the second strongest man. Below them were the experts, the navigator, the cannon man, the carpenter, each with their own job. At the bottom were regular sailors like you, doing the hard and dirty work to keep the ship going. The stress of living like this was huge. Some men broke, they got crazy angry, scared of everything, or just stopped moving. Killing yourself happened sometimes. Men jumped into the ocean rather than live one more day in the floating hell they chose. Others lost their minds and talked to people who were not there or thought they were still in their old life. The ship was like a pot full of human pain, and everyone was slowly cooking inside it. But this floating hell was your world now. You had to learn not just to live in it, but to do well in it. The ship that felt like a jail was also your weapon, your safe place, and your only chance to stay alive in a world that wanted you dead. You had to learn to live with the rats, the smell, the sickness, and the constant danger of dying, because this wooden hell was the only home you had left. The pirate crew was not a family or a group of close brothers. No matter what stories say, it was a bunch of hopeless, violent men kept together by needing each other, shared danger, and knowing that turning on each other meant death. The friendship between pirates was made in blood and kept by fear. The democracy they had was more like wild chaos than any real government. The pirate rules that controlled your new life were written in blood and kept by swords. They were not nice papers about rights and freedom. They were instructions for how a group of killers and thieves could work together without killing each other. Every crew had their own rules, but the main ideas were the same: equal shares of stolen things, voting together on big choices, and fast, mean punishment for anyone who broke the rules. Your captain was not a king. He was a war leader chosen by the crew and could be removed anytime. His word was final in battle when fast choices meant life or death, but the rest of the time he was just one vote, though a strong one because of his skill and friends. Many captains were kicked out or killed by their own men when they did not bring enough stolen goods or wins. The quartermaster was often stronger than the captain in daily life. He decided who got food, water, and stolen things, so he decided what was fair and heard every complaint. A good quartermaster kept the crew together even in bad times. A bad or dishonest one could start a fight that killed half the crew. The job needed smart planning, bravery to make hard choices, and skill to handle all the friendships and enemies on the ship. The crew was split into groups by country, experience, or who they liked. English pirates might group against French ones. Old pirates looked down on new ones. A smart leader could use these groups, or they could break the crew apart if not handled well. You had to move carefully through these groups, make friends and try not to make enemies, because your life might depend on having help when things went wrong. Violence decided everything in the end. Even though rules said vote, fights were often settled with duels, big brawls, or quiet killing. If a man thought another cheated him, he might challenge him to fight one-on-one, and the winner took whatever they were fighting about. These fights were mean and usually ended with someone dead or hurt forever. Sharing stolen goods was supposed to be fair and decided together, but it caused a lot of fights. The rules said everyone got the same amount, but there were always arguments about what was fair. Expensive things like jewelry or good swords might be taken by someone before everyone shared, and that started fights. Dividing the loot could take days and often ended with men fighting over what they thought they deserved. Trust was very rare among pirates. Every man knew his crewmates were killers who had already turned their backs on their old lives. Knowing everyone could kill or betray you made everyone nervous and scared all the time. You learned to sleep lightly, never turn your back, and always be ready for a knife from anywhere. The idea that pirates had honor was mostly a story. They might let people live if they gave up fast, but they also tortured and killed for fun or information. The idea of good pirates who only stole from rich people was silly. Pirates took from anyone they could beat, rich traders or poor fishermen. The only honor was the short team-up needed to stay alive. Loyalty was only for now. A friend today could be an enemy tomorrow if things changed. Crews broke apart over what to attack, how to fight, or how to split things. Old crewmates would hunt each other across the ocean for revenge over real or made-up wrongs. The pirate brotherhood was strong against outsiders, but broke fast when things got hard inside. Bringing in new men was often mean and rough to test if they were serious and to break their old ways. You might have to hurt or kill innocent people to show you really left your old morals behind. The crew watched you closely for any sign you were weak or still thought like a normal person. Anyone who failed might be left on a lonely island or thrown into the sea. Discipline on the ship mixed voting and strict control. Big choices were voted on, but daily rules were kept by officers who could whip, lock up, or take food away. Punishments were hard and done in front of everyone to scare others. A man who stole from the crew might lose a hand. A man who ran from battle might be left on an island or killed. The levels of who was important changed, but were real. Good fighters and skilled sailors were respected more than new men or people with jobs that did not fight. How brave, smart, and successful you were in battle decided your place and how much your opinion mattered. Men at the bottom, the scared, the bad workers, the unlucky, were treated like they did not matter and could be left to die if needed. The crew loved their ship in an almost magical way. It was not just a way to travel or a weapon. It was their home, their safe place, and their way to stay alive. Every man knew every part of the ship and would fight to the death to protect it. Losing the ship meant death or jail for everyone, so keeping it safe and working was everyone's job. This shared need made one of the only real connections between crew members. Women were almost never allowed on pirate ships, not because pirates were polite, but because women caused fights and trouble. The few women who did join, like Anne Bonny and Mary Read, had to be extra brave and tough. They were often meaner than the men because they had to fight extra suspicion. Having women could break the careful balance of who was loyal to whom. The crew hated the normal world, and the normal world hated them back. Pirates were wanted by every country and hunted by Navy ships and police everywhere. Being outlaws together made some crew members closer, but it also meant they could never fully trust anyone new. Every meeting with strangers could kill you, so being nervous was smart, not weak. The democracy pirates said they had was often ruined by real life at sea. In theory, everyone voted, but in real life, the strongest and loudest men decided everything. The crew might vote to attack a ship, but the best fighters chose how. Democracy for pirates was more like a wild mob than any real government. The pirate brotherhood was really just a short team for money and safety, not real friendship. Men became pirates for their own gain, not because they loved their crew or pirate ideas. When things got bad, less stolen goods, more Navy ships, or better chances somewhere else, the group fell apart fast. The bonds that were strong in battle broke easily when things were hard or when someone was tempted. Your place in this group was earned by fighting and kept by always watching. You had to prove you were good in battle, loyal in hard times, and willing to do the crew's crimes. The group would protect you only while you were useful. The moment you were not, they would leave you or kill you. It was a hard kind of friendship, but it was the only family you had in a world that wanted you dead. The moment you saw a possible ship to rob far away, the whole ship changed from a dirty floating home into a hunting machine. The lazy daily work and talking stopped, and everyone got busy fast, getting ready for the dangerous game of hunter and hunted. This was the moment you lived for, the chance to take by force what others worked honestly for, to show you were brave in a fight, and to get your share of the money taken from the losers. The first person to see it was the lookout high in the crow's nest, a man with good eyes and a loud voice to shout over the wind and waves, "Sail ho!" Would ring out across the deck, then more details about how big it was, which way it was going, and what country it seemed to be from. Everyone would stop what they were doing and look hard at the horizon, trying to see what might be their next prize or danger. The captain and officers would look through long telescopes, trying to decide if the ship was worth chasing. A strong warship would be left alone unless the crew felt like dying that day. A lone trading ship would be followed like a hurt animal. Deciding to chase was serious. It meant hours or days of hard sailing with no promise of winning, and always the chance the other ship was stronger than it looked. Once the choice was made, the ship became full of fast, serious work. Sails were moved to catch every bit of wind. Extra weight was thrown off the ship. Everyone got weapons ready, boarding tools prepared, and the doctor set up his area for the hurt men who would soon need him. The chase tested sailing skill, strength, and courage. Your ship had to be faster, but that was not enough. You had to outsmart them, guess where they would turn, and get closer slowly without them knowing you wanted to fight. A good pirate ship could pretend to be a normal trading ship until the last second, then raise the black flag and show who they really were. During a chase, the men were excited, scared, and hungry for blood all at once. They would joke and brag about what they would do, but under the loud talk was the knowledge they might be sailing to their own graves. Every chase was a big risk. The chance of treasure against the real chance of dying, getting hurt, or being caught. As you got closer, the waiting felt awful. Everyone watched the other ship for signs they knew, sudden turns, more sails, or gun doors opening. A trading ship that turned out to be a hidden warship could turn the hunters into the hunted in minutes. Many pirate crews learned that too late. The final move needed perfect timing. The pirate ship got close enough to shout, still flying fake flags and acting friendly. The captain would call nice greetings while his men hid weapons and got ready. The real moment came when the black flag went up and they shouted to give up. What the other ship did next decided everything. A smart captain might give up fast, knowing fighting would only make it worse. Some fought anyway, from bravery, fear, or wrong ideas about their chances. The pirates watched like hungry animals, ready to attack no matter what the answer was. If they fought, the real killing started. Cannonballs flew and boomed across the water as both ships tried to get the best position. Pirates tried to break the other ship's ropes or steering so it could not run, but keep the valuable cargo safe. The defenders fought for their lives, knowing giving up might mean death anyway, and their only hope was to push the pirates away or reach a safe port. How the crew acted in the chase showed who they really were. Some men got wild with excitement, ready to kill and steal. Others got quiet and serious, checking weapons and getting ready for hard work. A few showed fear and did not want to fight. That made the others hate them and mark them as cowards who could not be trusted. The ship changed for battle, every open space cleared. The deck got sand spread on it for better grip and to soak up blood that would soon flow. Nets went up to stop enemies climbing aboard, while hooks and planks got ready for the pirates to attack. The ship became a pure weapon, every part made to help take and rob other ships. Scaring the enemy was as important as shooting. Pirates made stories about how cruel they were, so people would be too afraid to fight when they saw the black flag. Fear could make a ship give up before a single shot. The crew worked best together when they had one enemy outside. They became a strong fighting team. But the same men could turn on each other fast when the danger was over, fighting about stolen goods or old anger from the battle. The chase tested the leaders too. The captain and officers had to make quick choices that decided winning or dying. A captain who waited too long or chose wrong could lose his job or his life to men who thought they could do better. The crew trusted leaders only as long as they kept winning prizes. A few bad chases could start a fight and a new captain. Whether wind, rain, waves, light could decide everything even if no one could control it. A fast storm could help a trading ship escape. No wind could trap both ships closed together waiting to fight. Pirates had to be great sailors and fighters, reading the weather and using it to win. The second the black flag went up, there was no way back for anyone. It meant war, pain, and a fight to the end. No running, no talking, no pity, just who was stronger deciding who lived, who died, and who sailed away rich. When the real fighting started, all the fun adventure stories disappeared in smoke and screams. Sea battle was not pretty sword dancing. It was ugly, scary, close killing where men died in pain and the ones who lived were often hurt forever. The taste of gunpowder, blood, and fear filled your mouth as you fought for your life against men just as mean and desperate as you. The first cannon shots broke the quiet with loud booms you could hear miles away. Heavy iron balls smashed into wood, sending sharp pieces flying like knives and turning strong ships into broken pieces fast. The noise was impossible to describe. Explosions, wood breaking, men screaming, it stayed in your ears long after. Your ship shook and cried as enemy shots hit. The floor split and broke. Men got hit by flying wood, their bodies torn and bleeding as they rolled in pain on their broken home. Some died fast. Others suffered a long time, calling for help that might not come. Smoke from cannons made a thick fog. You could not see far and fought almost blind, swinging at shadows that might be enemies or friends. The sharp gunpowder smell burned your nose and throat. The taste was like breathing hell. When the ships got close for boarding, the worst killing began. Iron hooks flew over and dug into the other ship, pulling the two ships together with a grinding crash. Men ran across the small space between the ships, ready to jump into death. When the ships touched, the wildest fighting started. The boarding group rushed over with swords swinging and guns firing, faces full of hate and killing madness. These were not clean movie sword fights. They were messy, desperate fights where men cut, stabbed, hit, bit, and clawed like animals. Your first real close fight showed you how much violence you could do. The good person you used to be disappeared as you fought to live. You found strength and speed you never knew you had, and a readiness to hurt and kill that would have scared the old you. The deck got slippery with blood. Every step could make you fall and leave you open to a sword. Men slipped in the blood of friends, unable to stand steady on the red floor. The smell of blood mixed with gunpowder and human waste as men lost control from pain and fear. The sounds came from everywhere, metal hitting metal, gunshots, screams of hurt and dying men, and deep angry yells. Some men fought quiet and serious. Others screamed like monsters as they cut through enemies. It was so loud you used hand signs to talk to friends. Wounded men crawled looking for safety, leaving blood trails. Some begged to live. Some tried to keep fighting with deadly wounds. You learned to step over dying men without stopping. Helping one could get you killed. Kindness was too expensive in battle. The doctor worked fast in his corner, cutting off broken arms and legs and trying to stop heavy bleeding with bad tools. His screams mixed with the battle noise as men learned living might mean being crippled forever. Many wanted to die rather than live unable to fight and having to beg on land. Your first big battle hurt your mind as much as your body could be hurt. Seeing men you ate with lying dead in blood stayed in your dreams for years. Knowing you killed people with families and dreams like you once had, ate at your heart. Some men broke completely. They froze and became easy to kill, or went crazy and attacked everyone. The line between brave and insane got very thin. The battle moved back and forth like waves. One good shot could kill the enemy captain and break his crew. Help arriving at the last second could turn loss into victory. You learned to feel how the fight was going by the noises and movement. When the enemy finally gave up, it felt sudden after all the noise. They threw down weapons and begged to live, faces white with shock. Some pirates stopped killing. Others kept going, lost in battle rage. Winning or massacre depended on each man's mood, not rules. After the fight, the deck was full of dead bodies, friends and enemies, blood running into the drains. Wounded men cried for help. The living stood quiet, trying to understand what happened. The ship had new holes, broken rails, torn sails, needing fast repair or it would sink. Your own feelings after your first battle were mixed. Happy to be alive, but sick at what you saw and did. Proud you were brave, but disgusted at how easy violence was for you now. The rush left you shaking and sick when you realized what you had become. You had crossed another line. The man who started the battle was gone. A new person walked away. The taste of battle, blood, gunpowder, fear stayed in your mouth forever and came back in quiet moments. You had tried real violence and learned you could not only live through it, but be good at it. That truth would change you in ways you did not yet know. Winning a battle brought its own kind of hell. The crew attacked the beaten ship like birds eating a dead animal. The careful robbing that came after every win showed what pirates really were, not storybook heroes, but desperate men driven by wanting things, meanness, and knowing their next food might come from what they stole. First, they made sure the ship and people could not fight back. The living defenders were tied up, weapons taken, hands tied. Then pirates went through every room, every box, every hiding place for anything worth money. Nothing was too small, buttons, belts, little things all taken. They broke open the cargo area like real thieves, barrels smashed, boxes broken, cloth torn to see what was inside. They quickly decided what was valuable and what was not. Sugar, tobacco, silk, spices, gold, and silver were saved carefully. Junk was thrown away or broken in the excitement. How they treated prisoners showed how cruel they could be. Important people or officers were hurt with hot metal or knives to make them say where hidden money was. Women passengers had the worst treatment, used for ransom or for the pirates' sick fun. Any idea of pirate honor was forgotten when there was money to make from pain. Dividing the stolen things was supposed to be fair by the rules, but it caused many fights. The captain and top men took the best things. Regular sailors fought over what was left. Men argued and pulled knives over a few coins or nice cloth. The quartermaster tried to keep it fair, but angry men often said he was cheating them. Looking for secret hidden treasure could take hours or days. They ripped up floors, broke walls, and hurt people to find the captain's private money box. Breaking the ship apart found money and showed the pirates were in total control. Personal things, clothes, jewelry, weapons were handed out like toys. Whoever grabbed first kept it, starting more fights over good items. A nice coat or sharp sword meant a lot to a man who had only rags and rusty metal. Seeing all their special things taken hurt the prisoners as much as physical pain. What happened to the captured ship depended on how good it was. A fast, strong ship might join the pirate group. A slow or broken one was stripped of everything and then burned or sunk. The crew voted, argued, and sometimes fought about it. What happened to the captured sailors depended on what the pirates needed. Good sailors, carpenters, doctors, or navigators might be forced to join. Anyone who said no could be hurt, left on an island, or killed. Some lucky ones were put in a small boat with little food and water and told to find land or die. Unlucky ones were killed slowly for fun or to scare others. Winning and getting rich felt great at first but hurt the crew inside. The happy rush hid how mean it all was. Men drank, gambled, and fought to push away any bad feelings about hurting people for money. Right after a win, stress, excitement, and alcohol made men fight each other. Old hates came back. New fights started over stolen things. The together feeling from battle broke into small, angry groups that could destroy the crew. Moving the stolen goods to the pirate ship in rough water was hard and dangerous work. Valuable things were packed to stay dry. Food that could rot had to be eaten or saved fast. Many men got hurt or died just moving things between rocking ships. Getting rid of proof was important. Any papers that said who the ship belonged to were burned or thrown away. Special items that could be recognized were changed or destroyed. Pirates tried to leave no clue that could be used against them later. The party after a win was often wild and mean. Men drank until they passed out, fought over nothing, and did cruel things that would shock normal bad people. The quick money and freedom after danger made days of drinking, hurting, and wild behavior. Many woke up to find they lost all their new money gambling or got robbed by friends. In the long run, winning made things worse. Every attack made navies want them more, put bigger rewards on their heads, and made safe places harder to find. Their new riches made other pirates want to rob them. Their scary name made new victims fight harder instead of giving up. Success usually led straight to getting caught or killed. The slow loss of goodness from winning was impossible to stop. Each attack made the next one feel okay. Each mean act made the next one feel smaller. Each hurt person made it easier to see people as just things to take from. The money from violence had a secret price, the slow death of whatever good was left inside, until pirates really were the monsters their victims saw in their terrified eyes. When your ship finally arrived at one of the few ports that let pirates in, you learned these lawless towns were just as dangerous and rotten as the ships. Places like Port Royal, Nassau, and Tortuga were not happy pirate homes. They were dirty, sick, broken places full of the worst kinds of people, the face of civilization, where violence, disease, and evil grew like tropical weeds in the Caribbean sun. Port Royal, before the earthquake of 1692. Sent most of it sliding into the sea, was maybe the most famous of these pirate hideouts. Built on a narrow strip of land sticking into Kingston Harbor, it was a maze of taverns, brothels, and gambling spots where pirates could spend their stolen money as fast as they had gotten it. The streets were unpaved and often ankle-deep in mud, human waste, and the trash of a society that had given up all pretend of being civilized. The smell of these ports would hit you long before you could see the shore, a sickening mix of rotting fish, human waste, still water, and the sweet stink of rotting bodies that were often left where they fell. The hot tropical weather would make every smell stronger, creating a cloud of rottenness that seemed to stick to your clothes and skin like something you could touch. Even tough pirates, used to the bad air on their ships, would sometimes throw up when the wind brought the full mix of port smells across the water. The people in these ports were a group of desperate folks, the violent ones and the totally lost. Pirates made up only part of the people living there. They were joined by escaped slaves, soldiers who ran away, people owing money running from those they owed, criminals of every kind, and the broken people that washed up on these shores like driftwood after a storm. Women were rare and often treated like things to be bought, sold, or fought over. Children, when they existed at all, grew up wild and mean, learning to steal and kill before they learned to read or write. The taverns that lined the waterfront were more like armed camps than friendly places. Each one was run by a different group or gang, and going into the wrong one could mean instant death for a careless pirate. The ale and rum served in these places was often watered down or mixed with things that could blind or poison a careless drinker. Fights would start over made-up insults, unpaid debts, or just drunk anger, and the floors would be stained with blood that was never properly cleaned. Gambling was the main fun in these ports, but the games were fixed, and the bets were often life or death. Pirates would lose their shares of stolen goods in one night of cards or dice, then turn to fighting to get back what they had lost. Cheating was common and expected, but getting caught meant facing the anger of armed men who had nothing left to lose. The gambling spots were littered with the bodies of those who had pushed their luck too far or trusted the wrong people. The brothels were maybe the most ruined places in ports that were all about ruin. The women who worked in them were often slaves, prisoners, or just desperate people who had no other way to live. Disease was everywhere. Syphilis, gonorrhea, and other sicknesses spread from sex went through the people like wildfire. Many pirates would come out of these places not only poorer, but sick with diseases that would slowly kill them over the next months or years. Medical care in these ports was basic and often more dangerous than the hurts or diseases it was supposed to fix. The few doctors were usually drunks, fakes, or butchers who had been kicked out of normal society for being bad at their job or mean. Surgery was done without medicine to stop pain in dirty places, and the death rate was so high that many pirates liked to fix their own wounds instead of going to a doctor. The law system in pirate ports was based on fighting and personal revenge instead of any clear rules of fairness. Fights were settled through duels, brawls, or just killing someone. The strongest and meanest people would become unofficial bosses, but their power was always short and open to challenge by anyone brave or silly enough to try. Murder was so common that bodies would be left in the streets for days before anyone bothered to get rid of them. The economy of these ports was based totally on the money from piracy and other crimes. Merchants who sold to pirates were often as bad and violent as their customers, selling overpriced stuff and services to men who had no choice but to pay whatever was asked. The prices for everything from food to weapons were marked up way above what they were worth, as merchants took advantage of pirates' short-term riches and desperate needs. The religious life of these ports was either gone or totally twisted. The few churches that existed were often used as meeting spots for crime plans or as hideouts for those running from sudden fights. The priests, when you could find them at all, were usually as bad as their people, more into money than saving souls. Many pirates had given up any pretend of believing in God, seeing their lives as proof that either God didn't exist or had left them to their fate. The social order in pirate ports was always changing and full of fights based on current money, fighting skills, and the loyalty of armed followers. A successful pirate captain might be treated like a king one day and murdered in an alley the next if his luck went bad. Reputation was everything, but it could be lost as fast as it was won. The only sure thing was change, as luck went up and down with the tides and the win or loss of pirate trips. The short-term feel of pirate money was nowhere more clear than in these ports. Men who had risked their lives to catch valuable prizes would waste their shares in days or weeks, spending cash on booze, gambling, and women, with the wild spending of those who knew they might not live to see another payday. The idea of a short life and a fun one was lived out all the way in the taverns and brothels of these places without law. The always there danger of attack by Navy ships or rival pirate groups kept these ports in a state of always being on edge. Watchers would be put out to look for coming ships, and the whole group of people would be ready to run or fight at any moment's notice. The walls and forts that protected these ports were often rough. But they worked, run by desperate men who knew that getting caught meant death. The knowing that their safe spot could be ruined at any time added another bit of desperation to an already jumpy situation. The culture life of pirate ports was rough and violent, showing the way their people were. Fun was mostly drinking, gambling, fighting, and using people for sex. Music, when it happened, was usually rude songs celebrating fights and wild living. Art was just rough drawings on walls and the sometimes tattoo. Books were not there among people who mostly could not read and had no want for smart stuff. The nature around these ports was awful even for the time. Cleaning up was not there, with human waste and garbage just thrown into the streets or the harbor. Bugs that carry sickness grew well in the hot climate, spreading malaria, yellow fever, and other killing illnesses through the people. The water was often dirty, making people have to drink booze for water, which only made more fights and mess. The children who grew up in these ports, when they lived at all, were shaped by the fights and badness all around them. They learned to steal, fight, and kill as easy as other kids learned to read and write. Many would follow their parents into piracy or other crimes, keeping the circle of fights and badness that made these places. The few who got away often carried the mind hurts from how they grew up for the rest of their lives. The ports of the lost were both safe spot and trap for the pirates who used them. They gave short safety from Navy chasing and a place to spend their stolen riches. But they also ate up that money fast and put pirates in new danger from their own kind. Many pirates would come to these ports rich and sure of themselves, only to leave broke, sick, and broken inside. The ports that promised freedom and fun gave only badness and sadness, adding another bit of pain to lives that were already full of hurt and fights. The money that went through pirate hands like water through a sieve was both the reason for their crimes and the tool of their ruin. The riches that pirates risked their lives to get was spent with wild throwing away that showed their knowing that death was always just one fight away. The money truth of pirate life was a big up and big down cycle that left most pirates poorer than the honest sailors they had once been. A good raid might give each crewman more money than a real sailor could earn in many years, but this big win would usually be wasted in days or weeks of getting to port. Pirates had no idea of saving or putting money to work. Their way of thinking was to spend it all right away, because tomorrow they might be dead, caught, or just unlucky enough to end up on the losing side of a fight. This way made a life of lots one day, and nothing the next that hurt their minds as much as their money. The splitting of stolen goods among the crew was supposed to follow the fair rules written in the ship's papers, but in real life it was often a cause of bad fights. The captain might get 2 or 3 shares, the main supply man and other bosses 1.5 shares, and the regular sailors 1 share each. But arguments would come up over how much different things were worth, what counted as a fair share, and how to handle special valuable things like jewels or gold. The real way of splitting captured riches was often messy and full of fights. Goods would be laid out on the deck or beach, and crewmen would argue over everything. Fights would start over who could take certain pieces, and men would sometimes kill each other over pretty small money. The main supply man would try to keep order, but his power was often fought by crewmen who felt they were being cheated. The kinds of riches that pirates got changed a lot based on who they attacked and their luck. Spanish treasure ships might give silver coins, gold bars, and pretty stones, while merchant ships would more often carry trade stuff like sugar, tobacco, silk, or spices. These things had to be turned into money by selling to bad merchants in pirate ports, a way that often ended with the pirates getting only a small part of what the stuff was really worth. The spending ways of pirates in port showed their mind state and what they thought about the future. Men who had lived with always danger and not enough would stuff themselves with fancy and fun, buying costly clothes, good weapons, and the help of women who sold sex. They would bet wildly, drink too much, and do big shows of spending that quickly used up their stuff. The gambling that ate so much pirate money was often fixed against them by pro-cheaters and bad tavern owners. Card games, dice, and other betting ways were made to take pirates' money as fast as possible. Many pirates could not read and could not count well, making them easy marks for smart tricks and number games that they could not get or see. The cost of keeping a pirate way of life was huge, and often not guessed right by those who picked this road. Ships needed always fixing and repair. Weapons had to be changed or made better, and supplies had to be bought at high prices from bad merchants. The crew had to be fed and given basic needs, and the ship's bosses expected to live in a way that fit their job. These costs ate a big part of any captured riches before it could be given to the crew. The money ties between pirates and the ports that helped them was using on both sides. Merchants would ask crazy high prices for stuff and help, knowing that pirates had few other choices and were often desperate for supplies. Pirates in turn would sometimes rob the very merchants they had just bought from, seeing them as okay targets for more stealing. This made a circle of using each other and not trusting that made long money ties not possible. The turning of stolen stuff into money you could use was a hard and dangerous way that often meant big losses for the pirates. Bad merchants would say the captured stuff was worth less, claiming it was hurt, bad quality, or hard to sell. Pirates, wanting to turn their stolen things into cash, would often take these low offers instead of risking keeping stuff that might be known by its first owners or taken by the law. The not having banks or money help in pirate ports meant that riches had to be carried as real things, making it open to stealing, losing, or getting hurt. Pirates would bury their treasure on far islands, hide it in secret spots on their ships, or just carry it with them all the time. All of these ways were risky, and many pirates lost their life savings to thieves, bad luck, or just forgetting where they had hidden their money. The mind hit of sudden riches followed by fast poorness was awful for many pirates. Men who had risked their lives to get a big fortune would find themselves broke and desperate in weeks after their best win. This circle of big up and big down made a betting way of thinking that made pirates even wilder in spending and more desperate in looking for new targets. The money unfairness within pirate crews was a cause of always fights and trouble. While the papers might say equal shares for regular sailors, the real was that bosses, special workers, and those close to the captain often got better treatment. This unfair made hard feelings and could lead to takeovers or the making of rival groups in the crew. The long money future for pirates was always bad. Unlike real sailors who might quit with some savings or a payment, pirates faced a future of poorness, hurt body, or death. The body work of pirate life meant that few men could keep going past their 30s, and those who lived often found themselves hurt bad by wounds or sicknesses that made other jobs not possible. The money hit of piracy on real trade was big and led to more safety steps that made pirate attacks harder and more dangerous. Merchant ships started going in groups, hiring armed watchers, and taking other careful steps that cut the pirates' chance of winning. These safe steps raised the costs and risks of piracy while cutting the possible wins. The tie between pirates and the bigger money world was like parasites rather than making things. Pirates made no riches of their own, but just moved around what was there through fights and stealing. This moving was not good and hurt, as much of the stolen riches was wasted on using up rather than put into making things. The money drained from piracy was one of the things that finally led to its end by navy forces and colony bosses. The money records kept by pirate crews, when they had them at all, were rough and often wrong. Most pirates could not read and had no idea of counting or money handling. This not keeping records made it hard to follow costs, plan ahead, or fix arguments over splitting riches. The not having money rules helped the fast losing of pirate fortunes and the always poor that marked most pirate jobs. The pay of bad ways, as promised by church leaders, was indeed death. But before that last end came poorness, sickness, and the slow wearing away of whatever human part the pirates had kept. The riches they had killed for would slip through their fingers like sand, leaving them with nothing but memories of fights and the knowing that they had traded their souls for short fun that had already turned to regret. As your name as a pirate grew, so did the will of normal countries to see you caught, tried, and killed. The fun idea of pirates as free people sailing past law and order was a dangerous wrong thought. In real, you were a chaste animal with money for your head, always looking back for the Navy forces that were coming closer with careful steps. The change of piracy from an okay bother to a main target for ending started in the early 1700s as Europe countries saw that the money hurt from pirate attacks was too much to keep going. The War of Spanish Rule had ended, leaving thousands of skilled Navy bosses and sailors without jobs and ready for anti-pirate work. Colony bosses were given big power to hunt pirates, and big rewards were given for catching or killing them. The Navy forces against you were well-ready, and totally mean in chasing pirates. Royal Navy fast ships and small warships were faster and more full of guns than most pirate ships, run by trained crews who had been taught just for fights against pirates. These ships had skilled bosses who knew pirate ways and were ready to fight them with better guns and ship skills. The info web that helped anti-pirate work was smart for its time. Colony bosses kept groups of tellers in pirate ports, giving rewards for news about pirate moves and plans. Caught pirates were hurt bad to tell where their hideouts were and who their partners were. Merchants who had been robbed gave full looks at pirate ships and crews, making a list of info that Navy bosses could use to follow their targets. The law set up for trying pirates was made simple to make sure fast fairness and biggest scare effect. Special sea courts were set up in colony ports, with judges who had big power to try and punish pirates without the long steps that might let them get away or be saved by their friends. The death punish was needed for piracy, and killings were done fast and in public to warn others who might be tempted to do the same. The mind war fought against pirates was as key as the body chase. Caught pirates were often hurt bad to get info, then killed in the most public and awful way possible. Their bodies would be shown in iron cages called gibbets, left to rot as warnings to other maybe pirates. The word was clear. This was the end that waited for all who picked the pirate life. The money push put on pirate work was step by step and worked well. Real merchants were pushed to arm their ships and go in groups, making them harder marks for pirate attacks. Ports that had before welcomed pirates were blocked or taken by Navy forces, cutting off the pirates' food and safe spots. The bad merchants who had made money from pirates were caught and tried, breaking the money webs that had kept pirate work going. Your daily life as a chased pirate was full of worry and fear. Every sail seen far off might be a Navy ship, every port might be a trick, every new crewman might be a spy or teller. Sleep became bumpy and broken as you listened all the time for sounds that might mean a coming enemy. The worry of always watching took its cost on your body and mind health, making you old too soon and wearing away whatever steady you had kept. The ways used by Navy forces to hunt pirates were taken from army work against normal enemies, but changed to think of the pirates better knowing of local water, and they're ready to use wild steps to get away. Navy bosses would use many ships to surround maybe pirate ships, cutting off all ways to run. They would also use local guides who knew the tricky waters where pirates often hid. The tool gap between Navy forces and pirates was big and getting bigger. Royal Navy ships had the newest water tools, better cannons, and better train crews. Pirates working on small money and not able to get real sellers had to use caught or made-up gear that was often worse than what chased them had. The world teamwork in anti-pirate work was new for its time. Europe countries that usually fought each other would team up in hunting pirates, sharing info, and working together. This team made it not possible for pirates to play different countries against each other or to find safe spots by changing sides. The getting in of pirate crews by Navy workers was an always danger that added another bit of worry to an already hard life. These workers would join pirate crews as normal sailors, getting info about their work and sometimes breaking their ships or guns at key times. Finding a spy in the crew would lead to mean hurting and killing, but the hurt would already be done. The slow ending of pirate safe spots was maybe the best plan used by anti-pirate forces. One, the ports that had let pirates in were taken, blocked, or just ruined. Nassau, the most known pirate hideout, was taken by a royal boss with a strong Navy group. Tortuga was left as French bosses cracked down on pirate doings. Port Royal had already been mostly ruined by an earthquake, and the people left were chased out by British forces. The giving of forgive to pirates who gave up was a smart mind trick that split pirate crews and pushed them to turn on each other. These forgives were real, but came with rules. The forgiven pirates had to give info about their old friends and sometimes really help in hunting them. The knowing that old ship friends might be working with the bosses added another bit of not trust and worry to pirate crews. The catching of big pirate bosses had a bad hit on the spirit and group of pirate crews. When famous captains like Blackbeard, Black Bart Roberts, or Calico Jack were killed or caught, their crews often broke up or were easy beat by Navy forces. The hero worship that went around good pirate captains meant that losing them could not be fixed easy. The trials and killings of caught pirates were carefully made public shows, meant to show the power of real bosses and the no use of fighting back. These happenings were told wide, with full stories put in papers and small books that went through the sea world. The word was made stronger by showing killed pirates' bodies in key spots where they could be seen by sailors and maybe pirates. The families and friends of pirates were also aimed at by bosses, making extra push on those who might want to join pirate crews. Wives and kids of known pirates were often caught and asked hard questions, their things taken and their good names ruined, this making punish go past the pirates themselves. Made the cost of piracy even higher and more about you. The last part for most pirates was easy to guess and bad. Those who were not killed in fights would at last be caught, tried, and killed. A few might run to far places and live their days in poor and no one knowing, but most would meet bad ends either at hands of enemies or their own friends. The life of a chaste pirate was mean, rough, and short, with no chance of quiet quit or happy end. The mind hit of being always hunted was maybe the meanest part of the pirate's end. The knowing that strong forces were step by step working to ruin you, that old friends might sell you for a reward, and that catching meant sure death made a worry level that few people could take for long. Many pirates broke under this push, becoming too worried, mean, or just giving up and waiting for the sure end to come. The human body was not made to take the ways on a pirate ship. And the cost that this life took on your body health was both right away and building up. Sickness was your always friend, more killing than any enemy's sword, and more sticking than any navy chase. The mix of bad food, dirty ways, and always worry made a perfect place for every kind of sick known in the 1700s. Scurvy was maybe the most scared of sickness among pirates, though why it happened was a secret to most sailors then. The not having fresh fruits and veggies in the pirate food meant that not enough vitamin C was sure on long trips. The first signs were tricking easy: tired, joint hurt, and small dark marks that came without reason. But as the sickness went on, your gums would start to bleed and swell. Your teeth would get loose and fall out, and old hurts would open again as your body's power to fix itself got worse. The last steps of scurvy were scary to see. Your skin would get spotted with purple marks. Your legs would swell with water, and you would get a special bad breath that showed you had the sickness. Many pirates would die from scurvy problems, their bodies just giving up as their hold-together parts melted and their inside parts failed. Those who lived would often be left forever weak, their teeth gone and their bodies marked by the sickness's hurts. Dysentery was another always danger on pirate ships spread by the awful clean ways and dirty water. The sickness would start with belly hurts and loose poop, but would fast go to bloody poop, bad dry body, and hot fever. In the tight space of a ship, dysentery would spread like fire through the crew, leaving men too weak to work and making a circle of worse clean that made the sick time even bad. The fix for dysentery was basic and often made it worse. Pirates would drink lots of rum, thinking booze would kill the sick-making things in their bodies. Some would try to fix the signs with sleepy drugs or other stuff, but these fixes often made the dry body worse. The ship's doctor, if there was one, might say to let blood or clean out, fixes that would make weak patients even weaker who were already fighting to live. Typhus, spread by the bugs that lived on every pirate ship, was another killer that hit with no warning. The sickness would start with high hot, head hurt, and a special rash that went over the sick person's body. As the sickness went on, sick people would get mixed up, their bodies shaking hard as their brains swelled with sore. The death rate for typhus was very high, and those who lived were often left with forever brain hurt. Yellow fever, common in the Caribbean where many pirates worked, was maybe the most feared sickness of all. The signs would start like nothing bad: hot, head hurt, and muscle hurts that might be thought a normal cold. But in days, sick people would get the special yellow skin that gave the sickness its name, followed by black throw-up as their inside parts started to fail. The death rate for yellow fever was over half, and there was no good fix ready. Malaria was an always danger in hot waters, spread by fly bugs that grew in the still water found in every ship's hold. The coming back hot and shakes of malaria would leave sick people weak and open to other sicknesses. Many pirates would have long malaria for years, their health slowly getting worse as the tiny bugs in their blood grew and went all through their bodies. Sicknesses from sex were everywhere among pirates, spread through touching women who sold sex in the NOLA ports they went to. Syphilis was very common and awful, starting with no-pain spots that would heal by themselves, making sick people think they were better. But the sickness would keep going, at last hurting the heart, brain, and other inside parts. The last steps of syphilis were marked by crazy, no move, and death. Gonorrhea was another common sex sickness that would cause hurt pee, drip, and at last no kids in men. The fixes ready were rough and often not working, stuff with poison that hurt on its own, or hurt ways that meant putting metal tools into the pee tube. Many pirates would have long gonorrhea for years, the sickness coming back now and then and causing always hurt and no work body. The teeth health of pirates was always awful even for the time. The mix of bad food, no. Teeth care and always drinking rum and using tobacco made perfect spots for teeth rot and gum sickness. Most pirates would lose most or all of their teeth by their 30s, making eating hard and adding to their whole bad health. The hurt from sick teeth was always end. Very bad with no good fix ready but pulling out with rough tools. Breathing sicknesses were common on ships where men lived tight and breathed air thick with smoke, dirt, and the out-breath of their sick ship friends. Tuberculosis was very feared as it would slowly eat its sick people over months or years, making them get thin while coughing up blood. The sickness was easy to catch, and once it showed on a ship, it would often go through the whole crew. Skin sicknesses were everywhere among pirates, caused by the mix of bad clean, always wet, and the many bugs that lived in their bodies and clothes. Fungus sicknesses would cause hurt rashes and spots that would never full heal in the wet ways on ship. Bug sicknesses would turn small cuts and scrapes into bad hurts that could lead to blood sick and death. The mind hit of always sickness was as bad as the body hits. Pirates would watch their ship friends get thin from sickness, knowing they might be next. The knowing that there was no good doctor care ready, and that sickness was often a death word, made a giving up way that added to the wild ways that marked pirate life. The ship's doctor, when one was there, was usually a man who had learned his job through doing instead of school. His doctor bag would have a few rough tools, a bone cutter for cutting off parts, a set of grabbers for pulling out balls or wood bits, and a group of bottles with different medicines of doubt good work. Cutting was done without no pain stuff, with the sick held down by his ship friends, while the doctor worked by candle light. The death rate on pirate ships was huge, with sickness taking way more lives than fights ever did. It was not rare for a crew to lose half its men to sickness during one trip, their bodies thrown over to feed the sharks that followed every pirate ship. Ones who lived would be left weak and low spirit, their number too small to good run their ship or fight off enemies. The long health hits of pirate life were always bad. Those who lived the right away dangers of sickness and fights would often be left with long sicknesses that would bother them for the rest of their lives. Old pirates could be known by their no teeth, marked skin, and the special walk of men whose joints had been hurt by years of hard work and bad food. The funny part of pirate life was that men who had picked this road looking for freedom and riches would find themselves caught by their own bodies, prisoners of sicknesses that would slow kill them while they were still young. The treasure they had risked all to get would be no good to men who were too sick to like it, and the freedom they had looked for would be changed by the trap of long sickness and coming death. The mind cost of pirate life was maybe more ruining than any body hard, as the always fights, alone, and bad ways slowly ate away at whatever clear mind and human you had owned. The sea itself seemed to make men crazy, its never-end space and sleepy beats, breaking down the mind walls that kept normal from wild. Many pirates would lose their minds long before they lost their lives, becoming empty shells of their old selves. The alone of life at sea was deep and making crazy. All around by water, with no sea of land for weeks or months at a time, pirates would start to feel cut off from the world they had known. The never-end blue far would play tricks on the mind, making see things that were not there and mind pictures that seemed more real than the rotting deck under their feet. Men would tell of seeing islands that were not, ships that went away when come near, or loved ones calling from over the waves. The always danger of fights made a state of super watch that was tiring to keep. Pirates had to be ready to fight any time, if against outside enemies or their own ship friends. This always state of ready would slow wear down their mind walls, leaving them jumpy, too worried, and ready for big bursts of fights over small things. Sleep became bumpy and broken as men would wake at the smallest sound, their hands going for weapons that were never far from their sides. The bad ways that were needed to live as a pirate would slow wear away whatever good rules had once led their doings. Men who had been raised to like life, things, and human worth would find themselves doing mean and fight acts that would have scared their old selves. This bad breaking was often with a kind of spirit death as pirates left whatever god think they had once had and took a no-meaning world view that saw life as no sense and rough. The drinking of booze, which was both needed to live and a way to get away from the hard truths of pirate life, would often lead to always drinking that hurt already weak mind states more. Pirates would drink to make no feel the hurt of their wounds, to forget the awful they had seen, and to find the brave to face another day of fights and not sure. But the booze would also make their worry more, raise their want for fights, and make their mind get worse faster. The old beliefs that grew on pirate ships were both a sign of and a helper to the crew's getting worse mind health. Men who had once been think clear and not believe easy would start to see signs and warnings in every odd thing. A bird landing on the ropes might be seen as a sign of coming bad, while a change in the wind could be proof of ghost help. These old beliefs would often lead to bad fights as crewmen blamed each other for bad luck or making sea ghosts mad. The bad dreams that bothered pirates were clear and coming back, full of pictures of the fights they had done and seen. Men would wake yelling from dreams of burning ships, drowning people, and the faces of those they had killed. These bad dreams would often go into their wake times, making a state of always mind hurt that made it hard to tell real from mind picture. The group ways on pirate ships were poison and ruining, making a place where mind sick could grow with no stop. The always fight for place and stuff, with the know that any weak show could mean death, made a hot pot of mind worry. Men would turn on each other with mean power, their ties poison. By not trust jealous, and the know that their ship friends could kill. The no private on ship meant there was no get away from the crazy all around them. Pirates would be made to see the mind break of their ship friends, watching as strong men were turned to talking nonsense wrecks by the pushes of their picked life. This always sea of mind sick would often start like breaks in other crew. Men making a spread of crazy that could go through a whole ship. The body signs of mind sick were often thought wrong for other things, or just not cared as part of the normal hards of pirate life. Men who had bad sad might be seen as lazy or scared, while those having crazy times might be pushed away as drunk or taken by bad ghosts. The not knowing about mind health meant that pirates got no fix for their mind problems, letting their states get worse until they could not work at all. The fights that were everywhere in pirate life would often get bigger than any real reason, as mind not steady crewmen would hit out at seen enemies or made-up dangers. These bursts of no-reason fights would make a circle of hit back and get even that could break a crew. Men who had once been trusted ship friends would become death enemies over small arguments, their think clouded by worry and mind sick. The god wrong thinks that sometimes hit pirates were very bothering, as men who had left normal good ways would sometimes make big god reasons for their crimes. Some would come to think that they were tools of god fairness, punishing the bad and moving riches by God's want. Others would become sure that they were lost souls, already dead, and doing their time in hell on their floating jail. The sex want no get and alone that marked life on pirate ships would often show in bad ways as men who had no normal human ties would make bad fix thinks or do mean sex acts. The few women who were met during attacks would often become the center of strong and dangerous fix thinks, leading to fights that could break crew together and end in many deaths. The slow lose of talk and share skills was another sign of the mind getting worse that hit long pirates. Men who had once been good at words and smart would find themselves trying hard to say hard thinks or feels, their words cut to the rough talk and bad words that ruled ship talk. This word getting worse would make them even more cut off from normal people and make it harder to go back to normal life. The two worried wrong thinks that bothered many pirates would often aim at their ship friends, as men would become sure that their friends were planning against them or stealing their part of the stolen. These not trusts would sometimes be right, but more often they were from sick minds that could no longer tell between real dangers and made-up ones. The fights that came would often end in fights as two worried pirates would hit first against seen enemies. The full break of normal social stops was maybe the most bothering part of pirate crazy. Men who had once been able to be kind, care, and love would become able to do the worst mean without any feel show. They would hurt prisoners for info they did not need, kill people who had already given up, and do acts of fights that did no use but the like of their own twisted wants. The last step of pirate crazy was often a kind of no-move pull-back from real. As men who could no longer take the awful of their being would just shut down in mind, these broken souls would sit looking at the far for hours, no answer to around, and seeming no know of the mess all around them. They would keep to work like machines, doing their jobs without think or feel, until death at last let them out of their mind jail. The crazy of the sea was not just a say, but a real tell of what happened to men who spent too long in the not normal place of a pirate ship, cut off from the steady helps of family, group, and good rules, all around by fights and badness, and hit by always worry and know enough. Even the strongest minds would at last break under the push. The sea would take not just their bodies, but their souls, leaving behind empty shells that looked little like the men they had once been. The end of a pirate's job was as mean and sure as everything else about their picked work. If it came through fights, sickness, or the long arm of fairness, death was the only quit plan ready for those who had picked to live by the sword. The last end would come with no warning, often when pirates least thought it, and it would be neither fast nor kind. For most pirates, the end would come in battle, their bodies torn by cannon fire or sword cuts as they fought hard against too many to beat. The fun idea of dying great in fight was a mean trick. Most pirates would die yelling and hurt, their insides spilled on a blood-wet deck while their ship friends stepped over their bodies to keep fighting. There was no honor in these deaths, no good. Give up for a good reason, just the mean math of fights that took the weak, the unlucky, and the slow. The lucky ones would die fast, their heads cut off by a cannonball or their hearts hit by a good-aimed blade. But many would stay for hours or days, their bodies broken, but their minds still working, made to think of their coming death, while their hurts got worse and their power slow went away. The ship's doctor, if he was still alive, might try to make their hurt less with rum or sleepy drug, but more often, the dying would be left to face their end alone, left by ship friends who had more need things than the ease of the going to die. Those who lived battle might face an even worse end, catch by Navy forces or colony bosses who were set to make shows of them. The trials of caught pirates were fast and set with judges who had no want to hear begs for kind or tells of what happened. The proof was usually too much. The stolen stuff found on their ships, the words of their hurt people, and their own tells pulled out through hurt or the promise of fast death. The killings that came after these trials were public. Shows made to show the power of real bosses and the no use of fighting back. Pirates would be hanged in groups, their bodies left to swing in the wind as warnings to others who might be tempted to do like them. The crowds that came to see these killings were often bigger than those at church or town fun, pulled by a sick like of the bad end of bad men. Some pirates would meet their end through the bad of their own ship friends, killed by men they had trusted with their lives. The ties of brother that were said to join pirate crews were weak things, easy broke by want more, jealous, or the promise of a king forgive. Old friends would turn on each other with mean power, their close know of each other's weak making their selves all the more bad. The sickness that was everywhere on pirate ships would take more lives than all the battles and killings put together. Men would get thin from scurvy, dysentery, or hot fevers, their bodies slow eating themselves, as their body fight power fell under the hit of no good food and dirty ways. These deaths were often slow and full of hurt, with sick people staying for weeks or months as their power slow failed and their minds started to go off. The crazy that hit many. Long pirates would sometimes lead them to take their own lives, throwing themselves over in times of sad or no hope. These self-kills were often quick acts done by men who could no longer take the mind hurt of their being. Their bodies would go away under the waves with no dew, their deaths noted only by the less in the ship's number, and the giving out of their small things among the ones who lived. The few pirates who got away from the right-away dangers of their job would often find that their past had marked them for life. Old pirates could be known by their marks, their no arms or legs, and the special ways that marked them as men who had lived outside law. They would be pushed away by good people, not able to find real jobs or make normal ties with law keepers. Those who tried to quit piracy would find that there was no safe spot for men with their past, the forgives given by. Colony bosses were often with rules and short, open to take back if the old pirates were thought to go back to old ways. Many would be caught years after they had left piracy, their old crimes catching up when they least thought it. The body cost of pirate life would keep taking people long after they had left the sea. Old pirates would die too soon from the sicknesses they had got, the hurts they had taken, and the all-up hurt that years of hard living had put on their bodies. Their deaths would often be alone and no one sad, as they had cut all ties with family and group when they picked the pirate road. The mind hurt put by years of fights and bad ways would prove not able to fix. Old pirates would fight with bad dreams, worry, and fight wants that made it hard for them to work in normal people. Many would turn to booze or other stuff to make no feel their hurt, making their body get worse faster and making sure their deaths would be as sad as their lives had got. The few pirates who got to have big riches would often find that their money was no good to them. Money could not buy back their health, their clear mind, or their place in good people. They would die as left out, their treasure not able to buy the one thing they really needed, forgive for the crimes they had done and the lives they had ruined. The families of pirates, when they were there, would often hurt along with their crime family. Wives and kids would be pushed away by their groups, their good names ruined by tie to piracy. Many would change names and move far, trying to get away from the bad mark of their link to men who had picked to live outside law. The past tell of single pirates was often short and not full, as most died without leaving any last mark on the world but the hurt they had made. Their names would be forgot, their stories cut to warn tales told to scare kids or fun tavern goers. Most pirates would go into nothing with no one sad for their deaths or keeping their lives. The funny part of the pirate's end was that men who had looked for freedom from the holds of normal people would find themselves trapped in a jail of their own making. The choices they had made looking for free and riches would at last lead to caught, poor, and death. They had traded their souls for short fun and found that the deal was not worth the cost they had paid. The last end for pirates was not just one, but altogether, the whole pirate group that had grown in the Caribbean in the early 1700s would be step-by-step ruined by the teamwork of Europe Navy forces and colony bosses. The ports that had let pirates in would be taken or ruined. The merchants who had sold to them would be caught or pushed out of work, and the webs that had kept pirate work would be taken apart bit by bit. The end of the gold time of piracy was as full of fights and mess as the time itself had been. The last big pirate captains would die in battle or on the hang ropes, their crews sent to the winds or all gone. The ships that had once scared merchant ships would be caught and changed to real use, their black flags changed by the colors of good countries. The treasure that had been got through years of fights and stealing would be taken by bosses or lost forever in the deep water. The leftover of piracy would live on in stories and old tales, but the real of pirate life, the sickness, the fights, the bad ways, and the sure bad end that waited all who picked this road would be forgot or made fun beyond know. The mean truth about the pirates being would be buried under layers of made-up and dream, leaving next people with a wrong see of what it really meant to live and die as an enemy of all people. The last end had come, and it was as no kind as the men who had lived by fights and died by them. The time of piracy was ending, not with a great last fight, but with a small sound, as the last ones who lived of a mean time were hunted and all gone like the bugs they had always been. The sea that had been their road to free had become their bury place, and the black flag that had once made fear in the hearts of honest sailors would fly no more. And so ends our trip through the mean life of a pirate. From the time a desperate man first stepped on a pirate ship to the sure day when death took him, we've seen how the fun myths of piracy break under the weight of past real. These were not sword fun heroes living lives of chance and free. They were broken men caught in a circle of fights, sickness, and bad falling that ate all it touched. The pirates of the gold time lived short, mean lives marked by always hurt and the knowing that their choices had cut them off from all that makes life good to live. They traded their human for short riches and found that the deal left them poorer than the honest sailors they had once been. Their ships were floating hells, their ports were dirty pools of bad, and their brother tie was built on shared fear, not real loyal. The sickness that hurt their bodies was matched by the crazy that ate their minds as years of fights and alone took away whatever clear and good they had once had. They died as they had lived, full of fights, sad, and mostly no one sad by a world that was better off without them. Tonight, as you go to sleep in your comfy bed, maybe think a bit for these forgot souls who picked the wrong road and paid the last cost for their wrong. Their story is a remember that free without duty is just another kind of caught, and that those who live by the sword will at last die by it. The mean life of a pirate was indeed mean, but it was also short, and in that short was maybe the only kind these men would ever know. They hurt a lot, but they did not hurt long. And when death at last took them, it was often a let go from a life that had become not able to take. Sleep good and remember, the fun pirate of old tales never was. The real pirates were monsters of their own making, and their end was just what they had earned.